We are now church ministers ready to be deployed.
The true dancer king. Take everybody out there. I've not time to fight physically, but
Among us here, there are those who are guilty. For this section of us who are guilty, we ask forgiveness from Ugandans, from those victims of our past misdeeds, and from God. We have sinned and we are very, very sorry. Today is one of those programs whereby we are convoked here to testify that we are now transformed and we are not what we were. We are not the sinners who hurt New Ugandans. We are now New Ugandans ready to be integrated in society. But as we talk about our sinful past, perhaps we can also mention out some of the occurrences in our lives which could have been cured by society. It is important to note that we who are on the ground know that the majority of those who are guilty perhaps grew up on the streets or as abused children, as orphans, as child laborers, and perhaps fled the streets in their earliest infancy. Perhaps had there not been broken families, the challenge of crime could have been lesser. But among us, there are also those people who are totally innocent. We shall give two examples for a matter of time. There is the case of Headman Mpaji, who was arrested with Edward Masembe. They were condemned to death and for a murder which never took place. They were accused of murdering one Wandiaka, who was indeed alive and had just feigned his death. Pleas by villagers and village authorities that Edmund Mpaji was innocent were not listened to by anybody. The Supreme Court confirmed him. It took serious and concerted efforts by the combined missionaries who went and mobilized villagers who threatened to lynch up the man who had feigned death before the Attorney General advised His Excellency to pardon him. However, his friend, his co-accused Masembe, was not lucky. He failed the long sentence syndrome. Perhaps allow me to talk about the long sentence syndrome. The long sentence syndrome is defined and accepted by courts. For example, in Susan Chigula and the 416 others, it was defined by courts as a general breakdown of the body immunity and susceptibility to sickness because of worry by a prisoner who has stayed in prison for a long time. My own testimony perhaps can also render credence to this. I said that I was arrested in 1987. I was condemned to death in 1993. In 1993, 35 of us were admitted to death row. Out of the 35 who were admitted, one was executed, 2 were pardoned. Now only 2 of us are still alive. The rest of my colleagues died in prison. So it's with this emotion that I appeal to the government to take a concern that if there are reform efforts, which reform efforts are supported by Ugandans and the taxpayer, perhaps longer sentences are a death sentence in themselves. And as I testified here, that indeed most prisoners never live to move beyond 15 years. Perhaps this is why the colonialists, when they said the life sentence, it was set at 20 years, served at around 13 years. Because my personal experience shows that very few prisoners ever manage to go beyond 15 years in prison without dying. So in a sentence beyond that is almost a sure death sentence. We also call upon the government to abolish the death sentence. We are stakeholders in this, and somebody will wonder, why should we be the one calling for the abolition of death sentence? But perhaps we can highlight something about this. In October, when the former Vice President was among us here, the state newspaper, New Vision, reported this. It reported that the President had called a special cabinet and he complained to them that they should cause the release on bail of the former Vice President, and that indeed the former Vice President was a victim of a fabricated case. We prisoners here want to tell Honorable Minister and our distinguished guests that we agree with the President. We agree with the President that so many people suffer from fabricated cases, like indeed like our brother Charles Zizinga. It's for this that we say that the death sentence is so final that it is really not right for it to be among the laws on our court. So we call upon government to abolish the death sentence. We also call upon government to consider funding some of the reform programs. Prisons undertakes 3 core functions. It incarcerates suspects and criminals or offenders. It rehabilitates us, but also it works on our resettlement after release. Among these, government sponsors our incarceration, our being kept here. Unfortunately, government does not sponsor our education and transformation efforts. So, Your Honorable Minister, sir, we call upon the government, we appeal to the government to start contribution and funding our rehabilitation efforts. Because being incarcerated here without reform is itself inconsequential. We also call upon the government to consider perhaps pardoning or releasing these chapati vendors who are arrested in riots, who are also causing congestion in prison. We already know, as papers have been talking about, that there are so many of these chapati vendors, these matoke sellers who were arrested and then charged of terrorism. Would you kindly consider their plight? Because when we say them, we know them. We have those people who know them, who stayed with them. So we call upon government to consider this.
You are